Navy League present Oceana, 75 Years of Excellence.
Hello and welcome to Naval Air Station Oceana, home of the East Coast Master Jet Base. Think about this for a second. When this place first opened back in 1943, it was only 40 years after the Wright brothers had invented aviation. Since then, the Navy has prepared its aviators for every combat engagement from World War II through the current conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. There has been triumph, there has been tragedy, but through it all, there has been a commitment to excellence.
It's like a scene straight out of Hollywood, with sleek planes and heroic pilots and anxious loved ones awaiting their aviator's return. Except it's not some movie, it's real, and it happens at Oceana all the time, has been for 75 years now.
Since their inception in the 1940s, Oceana, Fentress, and Dam Neck really have been supporting armed forces that have fought in every armed conflict from World War II to today's missions in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan.
Captain Chad Vincelette became the 45th commanding officer of Naval Air Station Oceana during a change of command ceremony back in March.
Is this like a dream come true?
It is. I feel like I won the lottery. Being a local kid, grew up here. My dad flew out of here. I've flown my whole career out of here, so it really is a dream come true for me to be the commanding officer of Oceana.
Vincelette says the base's 75th anniversary is an occasion well worth celebrating.
The 75th anniversary really is a celebration of the men and women that have served at Oceana, both military and civilian, because we have a lot of civilians that work here as well. And it's also really, I think, a celebration of the partnership between the Navy and the cities of Chesapeake and Virginia Beach.
There have, of course, been times of difficulty and heartache, including earlier this year when Oceana lost 2 officers in an aviation mishap, and 6 years ago when a jet crashed into a nearby apartment complex. Miraculously, no one was hurt in that mishap. In every such instance, the base community came together, rallied, and carried on. That's what professional warfighters do.
I think it's just part of the mission that we do. You realize that those are your brothers in arms, that when you lose them, you know, it's like losing a piece of your family, but you have to go on because there's a bigger piece to the mission that you need to do. Then you realize also that they would want you to carry on and continue the mission.
The location being right there close to the Atlantic Ocean allows us to get into operating ranges that are right there off the coast and very convenient.
Rear Admiral Roy Kelly is Commander, Naval Air Force Atlantic. AirLANT's mission is to ensure the fleet's assets are prepared to deploy in response to any national security requirements or in support of humanitarian assistance and disaster response. Kelly, who spent many of his younger years flying out of Oceana himself, knows exactly how important this facility is and the people who populate it.
As you look at some of the giants within naval aviation, and a lot of them have been stationed or operated out of Oceana, and it's kind of fun to think of all the different leaders across the years that some of them very well known in this area and throughout the world. But there's been a ton of naval aviators that have come through Oceana, done their tours, some of them several tours there, and gone on to greatness, if you will, for leadership within the Navy.
Kelly says Oceana holds an important place in the hearts of Hampton Roads.
We've got organizations like Navy League that's reaching out to truly do as much as they can to support the base and kind of provide a lead organization that would allow us to celebrate the 75th anniversary.
Vincelette agrees.
So the community has really embraced Oceana, and the Navy has embraced the community as well. So we're kind of an integral part of that fabric within the community, so it really makes it successful.
And the CO says it's a success story that should continue for decades to come.
I think for sure Oceana is going to be around for as long as we're flying airplanes in the Navy.
Through the years, thousands of men and women have climbed into the cockpit and flown these aircraft here at Oceana. They are amazing pieces of machinery. But what makes it really special is the human element, the people. Through every combat engagement the U.S. has fought going back to the 40s, including the current battles of today, Oceana has supplied the pilots and naval flight officers to fly the planes and deliver the ordnance on target. Thousands, including my own father, passed through this place during those 7.5 decades.
That was the best job in the world. Absolutely was.
Retired Rear Admiral Fred Lewis recorded more than 6,500 flight hours in more than 24 fixed-wing and rotary aircraft and made more than 1,200 arrested landings on aircraft carriers in a career that spanned from 1958 to 1995. It's possible that Bad Fred, as he was called, has more flight time at Oceana than anybody living today. He says there is no place better.
Absolutely. The Oceana is terribly significant in terms of naval aviation, where naval aviation has been and where we have come to and where we're headed. So it's a critical operation facility that we absolutely need to have here. It has been absolutely vital to prepare pilots to go to carriers.
I enjoyed that more than hell. I'd have probably done it for nothing.
Retired Navy Captain Chris Vatidis flew the A-1 Sky Raider in combat in Vietnam. He ultimately became commanding officer of VA and VF-43 at Oceana.
It's a brotherhood, actually.
We met up with him at the Association of Naval Aviation Monument at the Virginia Beach oceanfront.
Everybody, well, all the skippers and the squadrons were buddies. I mean, you knew everybody. But the camaraderie and the mission, we got to fly, in my particular squadron, we got to fly all we needed, all we wanted, just about. Oh, Lord.
You know, people ask, do you miss the airplanes? And of course I miss the airplanes. I'm right partial to this one over here, my left shoulder, but quite frankly, it's the people in the mission. It's a great community with great people and a great mission.
Retired Admiral Bill Gortney flew over 5,300 mishap-free flight hours and completed more than 1,200 tailhook landings, primarily in the A-7E Corsair II and the FA-18 Hornet. He served as Commander, U.S. Fleet Forces Command from 2012 to 2014 before retiring in 2016. His job was to train, certify, and provide combat-ready Navy forces to combatant commanders around the world. The Navy League board member knows all about how vital Oceana is.
We're going to be flying airplanes off aircraft carriers as long as we have aircraft carriers. So the future, I see another 75 years in its future. And at the end of the day, especially on the East Coast, we couldn't build a Navy and Marine Corps Air Force air station today. We kind of have what we have when you given the environmental rules and potentials for encroachment. So being able to keep and work with the citizens and the communities around all of our bases and air stations is absolutely critical. And no place does it better than the Commonwealth than here in the Tidewater area.
From humble origins to becoming one of the largest and most advanced air stations in the world, the story of Oceana is an amazing tale.
Oceana, 75 years of excellence.
Vision, courage, commitment. That has been the story of Oceana. You could write a book about it. Amy Waters-Yarsinski did.
You know, you look at the 75-year history and you look at the fact that from day one, during World War II onward, they began training pilots for the fleet, and they kept up with pace and technology and all the other things that are wrapped into moving us forward and moving the fleet into a prepared situation to take on anything in the world.
From humble origins to becoming one of the largest and most advanced air stations in the world, the story of Oceana is an amazing tale. Author Amy Waters-Yarsinski captures it all in her book, Naval Air Station Oceana, from mud flats to mission ready.
There were visionaries back in the World War II period. It actually started in the end of the 30s. They were looking at maps. They were pinpointing areas to put such a field because they already had the Norfolk Air Station. They had that as the focal point for Fleet Air at that time, and they were looking for these smaller fields, the outliers that they could put out there to put squadrons they knew would come in large number during the war if any war occurred. And war was already starting up in Europe. They knew it. They knew something was coming, and so they started pinpointing locations on the map and looking at property to acquire.
And they found it. Between the village of Oceana and the Princess Anne County Courthouse lay 5,000 acres of farmland from which the air station eventually sprang. With low population density and plenty of elbow room, the parcel was the perfect location for a military airfield. Oceana would become quite literally an air station that had a city grow up around it, not the other way around.
So they located the airfield in the middle of farmers' fields in Princess Anne County because it looked like a great spot. There was nothing else out there, and the land was very inexpensive to acquire. Even if they had to pay fair market value, it was still inexpensive because by the end of the 30s, many of those farms had started to fail in terms of productivity. And so they knew they could get it for a good price. and they did.
Now home to 17 strike fighter squadrons of FA-18 Hornets and FA-18 Super Hornets, NAS Oceana has grown to comprise 6,820 acres, including Dam Neck Annex with 4 runways, 3 measuring 8,000 feet in length and 1 measuring 12,000 feet. Naval aviators and naval flight officers stationed at Oceana fly approximately 219,000 training operations there every year.
We came extremely close to losing it.
During the 2005 round of base realignment and closures, Oceana almost went away. Because of excessive residential and commercial encroachment near the base, the BRAC Commission proposed moving Oceana's fighters to Cecil Field, Florida. The Commonwealth of Virginia and the City of Virginia Beach partnered to save the base, spending $10 million a year to buy back and relocate unconforming properties in the crash zones around the base.
We didn't think we could lose Oceana. That was the assumption. Everybody just kind of thought, no, that can't go away. But it could have, and it almost did.
But it wasn't to be. Oceana stayed. Now, 13 years later, the base is celebrating its 75th anniversary.
And it started at a time, it's just born of a time that we needed them, and we still need them now. And I think that celebrating that is something that's pretty special. 75 years is a long time, and they've done nothing but grow and become even better and better as the years have gone on. And I think you look at that it's an anniversary that's really worth every moment of recognition it gets.
There's a real cool factor to what they do here at Oceana. They prepare warfighters for combat operations overseas, but what they also do is inspire. Hundreds of thousands of people come out to Oceana every September for the thrills and chills of the annual air show. It's their chance to get an up-close look at their Navy at work. The Blue Angels are always the stars of the show. Back in 2007, they even took me up. Despite the pained look on my face, I did have fun. Last year, the team's boss told me why they do what they do.
We hope that we can inspire people to go do something great with their lives, whatever it is, whether that's flying or serving in the military. Great, but I think much more importantly, go chase that dream.
In 2016, 2 members of Oceana Squadron BFA 106 got the chance to chase the dream, getting selected to join the team.
Everyone always dreams about it. I don't know if I ever thought it was actually going to be a reality for me, but certainly flying has always been something I wanted to do.
My parents took me to my first Blue Angels air show. I don't remember it, but they have pictures of me, and I still have that picture hanging of the signed autographs of the Blue Angels from that time hanging in the room.
For the past 2 years, every 5th grader enrolled in Virginia Beach City Public Schools has gotten to come out to the show and meet jet pilots as part of an ongoing STEM education partnership.
I think maybe you want to fly someday?
Yes.
And while the air show is incredible, it is by no means the only cool thing at the base. Far from it.
Gear set Hornet 360. Clear deck.
One of the coolest things of all at Oceana is the world's only landing signals officer school. It's the only place in the world where fellow pilots learn how to safely land at their colleagues on ships, helping them take their $52 million fighter jets from 150 miles an hour to 0 in a matter of seconds safely. It's where pilots selected to be LSOs learn how to wave planes aboard the aircraft carrier.
Right there, deck's coming up. Now move up just a little bit, up, and you'll see he's going to catch a wire right there. Not the 4th wire. You're not qualified to be an LSO.
Wow, I did it.
Yeah.
Cool.
We spent time with the LSO School's longtime director, Commander Brian R.J. Roberts, a Super Hornet pilot who had been stationed at Oceana in one capacity or another for 20 of his 23 years in the Navy.
So paddles is the nickname for LSOs, and it goes back to how our profession started. And historically, landing on the ship is one of the most difficult tasks we do, which is why we've spent so much time preparing for it every time we go to the ship. About 150 touch and goes just to practice before we even go out there and do it for the first time on one of our platforms.
Safety, of course, is job one here.
You're unsung heroes, but it's a pretty critical piece of the puzzle, right?
We like to think so, yes. So we're the last critical link for the safe and expeditious recovery of aircraft, which is our mantra. So we're the ones standing on the back of the ship, guiding the pilots in for their final phase of landing. About 15 to 18 seconds of wings level time from when a pilot rolls out behind the ship to when he's crashing into the deck at about 800 feet per minute, vertical rate of descent, moving forward at about 150 miles an hour. So that's why we're there. We're there to help our friends make sure we get them aboard safely.
They have a large presence here in our community, in our region, and I think Oceana is here to stay.
Oceana, 75 years of excellence.
When looking back through the legendary history of Oceana, it seemed fitting to reach out to the leaders who've been there and done that. The 45 commanding officers who have led this master jet base through the decades. I got to sit down with 3 of them.
We got together at a favorite gathering spot, the Oceana Officers Club, where everywhere you look there are naval aviation artifacts. It's a place where they felt comfortable with their peers back in the day. It was their inner sanctum, a place to go and hang with like-minded colleagues. Bob Geis, Kit Chope, and Lou Shager are of a like mind when it comes to the subject of Oceana.
You know, it's almost the intangible. So it's a Navy installation like other Navy installations. It's got a runway like other bases, but what it has is history. What it has is brotherhood and sisterhood. What it has is just this litany of legends that have lived and flown and worked out of this installation.
But looking back, it was quite an amazing time, and certainly the formative years for all of us as we went through flight school and went through the Fleet Replacement Squadron and into the fleet as young lads and lasses. I think now you can look back and see what you learned from those heroes, those legends, and it has been awesome to reflect as I retired from the Navy a few years ago on what that meant to me.
I think immediately when you walk through the door, you want to be a part of it. And I think you want to contribute in some way. And I think you quickly recognize that it's going to take some time. You have to be patient. But once you learn some of the ropes and you gain a little bit of a reputation as a hard worker and someone that can contribute, I think you feel better and better coming back to this place, because I was a beneficiary of great mentorship probably in this table. And for all the right reasons. You know, you do the education piece and the training in the squadron, and you get the rest of the story here. And I think it always felt good coming back here and being able to provide that to the junior officers when you're a little bit older as well.
Leading the base comes with its own set of challenges. In the late 90s and early 2000s, a group called Cajun, citizens concerned about jet noise, made its voice heard. A few years later, as the Navy searched for a new outlying field, residents of northeastern North Carolina and Southside Virginia made clear they didn't want the OLF in their backyard. 2 years ago, the Navy discovered that private wells near Fentress Field had been contaminated with chemicals from firefighting foam in the 80s. And more recently, last year, base leaders had to deal with the aftermath of more than 90,000 gallons of jet fuel spilling into nearby tributaries. In each case, Oceana leaders tackled the issues head-on, worked to solve the problems, and pressed forward. The 3 former COs agree you can't do it alone. It's a true team effort.
It's safe to say that every day, people connected with Oceana are on the front lines fighting the nation's battles. And in addition to those sailors and Marines and service members that are overseas, you got a family and a network of support systems back here in Virginia Beach and Chesapeake and Hampton Roads doing just as much to make sure that that mission is met. So yeah, it is, that cannot be overstated.
This has a different pace than other installations in the Navy. It has a different sense of family than other installations in the Navy. And what I will say anecdotally is there are a lot of folks who have worked on this installation who have foregone opportunities elsewhere to stay right here at Naval Air Station Oceana.
And to be a part of that lineage in some small way, some part of that 75 years with all relationships in the city and the Navy League and those type of things, it's a part of brotherhood or sisterhood that you just can't replace, can't find anywhere else.
Oceana has come a long way and hopefully still has a long way to go. And while no one can predict the future, it is a certainty of the impact that this base has had on the surrounding community. It's been huge. The base, including Dam Neck Annex, has about 10,500 active Navy personnel, about 10,000 family members, and 4,500 civilian personnel, making NAS Oceana the second largest employer in Virginia Beach, with an overall annual financial impact on the region of $1.3 billion. It's an important piece of the City of Virginia Beach's economic development game plan.
Yeah, it's an important aspect of our economy, of our community, that we certainly shouldn't take for granted, but we certainly have a benefit from. We go to another community and you share with them these kinds of assets that we have, and I can tell you, it takes us to the top of the class, if you will, in terms of benefits and value add to our community. We have the best trained Navy and military force in the world. They have a large presence here in our community, in our region, and I think Oceana is here to stay, and we certainly as a community are going to continue to embrace them as an important part of our community.
After the 2005 BRAC scare, the cities, the state, and the Navy got busy doing everything possible to protect the base, including carefully coordinating business development activities around the installation to make sure they conform with the Navy's mission.
And we were going to lose that asset, and it was a stressful period of time here in City of Virginia Beach, and but we rallied. Both with our federal and legislative support in the governor's office and certainly locally to create a unique arrangement whereby we could work, hand in glove with the Navy and make sure that we as a city do everything we can to embrace their operations and not impinge upon their operations.
Since the program's inception, the Oceana Land Use Conformity Committee has approved about $2.9 million in incentive grants to leverage over $53 million in new capital investment to the city to 56 businesses.
Virginia Governor Ralph Northam is a big fan of Oceana and an enthusiastic supporter of retaining the facility. While in the state Senate, he voted to approve state funds to help the municipalities reduce encroachment around Oceana and Fentress Field.
Over $1 billion comes into the Commonwealth of Virginia because of Oceana's presence. So we've always been proud to have Oceana there. I was in the Senate for 6 years and was part of that encroachment process, and it was a bipartisan effort. Everybody knew that was the right thing to do, and so we did it.
So after 75 glorious years, the question is, what does the future hold for Oceana? Plenty.
Naval Air Station Oceana is truly a jewel. It is a national treasure, and I don't say that lightly.
Retired Rear Admiral Craig Quigley heads up the Hampton Roads Military and Federal Facilities Alliance. That group's job is to monitor federal budgets and congressional actions in Washington and to be on high alert for any threats to this region's bases. He is upbeat about Oceana's future.
I do feel very good about the future of Oceana. Oceana has such a fabulous history, but it's got a bright future too. Many things have been done to enhance the effectiveness and the efficiency of the aircraft that are stationed there, and we will continue to do that in the years ahead.
75 years, that's a long time. But if Navy officials and state and local leaders have their way, the story of Oceana will go on for at least another 75. I'm Mike Gooding. On behalf of all of us here at 13 News Now, thanks for watching.
The preceding program was brought to you by UMUC.